All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this here, guys. We want to go ahead and simplify the expression. And whenever we're talking about simplifying something, we're actually talking about multiplying them here. We do have two parentheses. Parentheses in this case means multiplication. So I am going to be showing this step by step. Once again, if you know this already, then you could go just skip to your answer, but I will be showing this step by step. Whenever you're multiplying these expressions, you do want to go ahead and multiply the numbers, coefficients here. So we have a 5 times a 3. Now, when it comes to the variables with the exponents in this case are not going to be multiplying, they actually add. So that would be 2 plus a 5. So if I simplify this out, 5 times a 3 in this case is 15. We have our variable of x. 2 plus a 5 is 7. And this here is our final answer. Alright, so once again, you're multiplying coefficients and you're adding exponents. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one here. Once again, we want to go ahead and multiply our coefficients, and in this case our exponents, we're going to add them. Now notice in this case that t doesn't have an exponent, or at least we can't see it, but there is an exponent there. That's actually a 1. So in this case we have 3 times a 4 times t to the 7 plus 1. And if we simplify this out, 3 times 4 is 12, and t is to the 8th, because once again 7 plus 1 is 8. Alright, now let's go ahead and move on to this example here, and in this case we're actually going to be multiplying a monomial expression by a polynomial expression or a trinomial, and we're actually going to go ahead and use the area model. Now the area model in this case is I'm actually just going to write or draw actually a rectangle here. And each of these expressions actually represents a side in our rectangle. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and write this one on this side, and I'll go ahead and write this one on this side here. So we have a negative n squared, and we have n squared plus a 5n plus 6. All right. Now what we're doing in this case is I'm going to go ahead and create boxes or separate rectangles, smaller rectangles based on each of the terms. Now I want to go ahead and multiply this here. I have a negative in this case, guys. That is actually a negative 1. Once again, it is invisible, but it's there. Same thing here, we have a positive 1. So if I multiply a negative 1 by a 1, it's going to give me a negative 1. I'm just going to put the negative. And in this case, we have n, and our exponents are going to be adding. So 2 plus 2 is 4. Moving on to the next one, we have negative 1 times a 5 is a negative 5. And in this case, n squared and n, we're actually going to be adding those with the exponent of 1, so that's 3. And then negative n squared times a 6, that's a negative 6n squared. So our final answer in this case is actually going to be a negative n to the 4th minus 5n cubed minus 6n squared. And this here is our final answer. Alright, moving on to the next one, guys, and here is the next one. In this case, we are going to be showing distributive property in this example. And what distributive property is that whatever number you're multiplying in your parentheses here, you're actually going to be multiplying it by everything in your second parentheses or second expression. So this first expression, I have to multiply it by everything inside. So that's going to become a 6z squared times a 7z squared plus a 6z squared times a 3z plus a 6z squared times a negative 2. Once again, this here is the first term we had, and we're multiplying it by each term in the second expression. So here's a 7, here's a 3, and here's a negative 2. So let's go ahead and multiply this out. So in this case, we multiply as follows. We do the 6 times the 7. And in this case, our exponents will be adding. Bring down my plus sign. And then 6 times 3 times a z squared plus 1. Once again, there is an exponent of 1 there. There is a 1 there. Plus 6 times a negative 2. Times, in this case, z squared. There's nothing going to be adding to the z, so that's just z squared. Now let's go ahead and simplify this out. I have 6 times 7 is 42. And then we have z. 2 plus 2 in this case is 4. Plus 6 times 3 is 18. And then z, 2 plus 1 is 3. And then 6 times a negative 2 is negative 12. And that is z to the second power. And this here, guys, is our final answer. That there is our final answer. Alright, now we do have one more, guys, and I want you guys to actually work on this one here. And I want you to find the product in this case. Just find the product. Find the product of this here.